people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, we'll start with this. Boston Boxing posted this via their social media account. It reads, former world title challenger Jessica Camara versus Concord, New Hampshire's own Kimberley Wabik, August 13th in Melrose, Massachusetts. This is going to be Jessica's first fight since dropping that razor-thin decision to Kaylee Reese. A lot of people out there, they feel that Jessica Camara did enough in that fight to deserve the nod, deserve the decision. It really all depends on who you ask, though it is a fight where Jessica gave a very good account of herself, good offensive highlights, eye-catching punches, eye-catching shots. She will be attempting to get herself back in the winner's bracket, as will Kimberley Wabik, who is also coming off a loss, also rebounding. This is going to be a move downstairs for Jessica Camara, from super lightweight down to lightweight. From 140 down to 135 pounds, 135 pounds where Katie Taylor reigns as that division's undisputed champion. You have to figure that what Jessica Camara is angling for is either a Katie Taylor title shot, the beginnings of one, the start of one, integrating herself into today's lightweight division, today's 135-pound division, or she's positioning herself to catch a vacant title should the title at some point become vacant, because let's not kid ourselves, Katie Taylor, excellent fighter, decorated, undisputed champion that she might be, she's not going to be around forever. And if Jessica plays her cards right, she can either get Katie Taylor in the ring, get herself a nice payday, or end up positioning herself to catch a vacant title should the day come when Katie vacates all those belts, vacates all those alphabet titles. This is one of two fights Jessica Camara has scheduled. She's supposed to be taking on Kimberley Wabik on the 13th of next month. Then the following month, on the 17th, she's supposed to be returning to action against an opponent that has yet to be announced. Now, Kimberley Wabik is a far cry from who she just faced in the very experienced Kaylee Reese. Kimberley Wabik, for the most part, she's not on the same level as many of the girls that Jessica Camara has fought already. Melissa Saintville, Heather Hardy, Kaylee Reese. These fighters are very experienced fighters, very experienced, been around the block. Champions and former champions. Compared to them, Kimberley Wabik is quite pedestrian. This fight that Jessica's about to have, it's an 8-rounder. The fight the following month in September, that's a 6-rounder. It seems like they're trying to ease Jessica back into activity in what is a controlled environment. They're not just throwing her out there, throwing her to the sharks. It's a rebuilding process. Also set to fight on that card is Carlos Gongora. She's coming right off that split decision loss to the United Kingdom's own Lerone Richards. He, like Jessica Camara, is attempting to rebound off that loss, get back in the winner's bracket. Carlos Gongora, a very exciting fighter. Offensively minded, decent-sized puncher. This is all set to go down at the Memorial Hall in Melrose, Massachusetts, US of A, August 13th. Keep your eyes peeled for that. And let's see what the future has in store for Jessica Camara, a very capable boxer, fun to watch, integrating herself into the lightweight division, making the division that much deeper for it. In women's super lightweight news, the scheduled rematch between the former champion Erika Farias and Sandy Ryan, who will be attempting to rebound off her loss the same way that Jessica Camara is attempting to rebound off a loss. It appears there's going to be a WBC regional title on the line, the international title. And what that essentially means is that the winner of the fight, whoever it is, whether it's Erika again or Sandy, they come one step closer to taking on this division's full-fledged WBC champion, unified Ring Magazine champion, Chantel Camara. That's the way that breaks down. Chantel Camara, who may end up fighting undisputed welterweight champion Jessica McCaskill. Later on this year, at a contracted weight of 140 pounds, that seems to be what the McCaskill people are shooting for. In any event, the winner of this fight comes one step closer to potentially facing the winner of that fight. Though if it happens the way I think it's going to happen, if Sandy Ryan ends up beating Erika Farias in this rematch set to go down next month, early next month on the 6th, I don't think she should look to fight the winner of Camara versus McCaskill for some time.
Well, I mean, in all likelihood, they won't. It's a WBC international title, after all, not a interim title.
Sandy Ryan dropped a split decision to Erika Farias earlier this year in March. It was a loss that took me by surprise because I picked Sandy to win that fight. Try and understand that Sandy Ryan taking on someone like Erika Farias in what was only her 4th professional fight, it was ambitious to say the least, because most unbeaten up-and-comers, they don't fight former champions in only their 4th pro fight. It didn't happen the way I thought it would happen.
But I am picking Sandy to win the rematch, and I'm picking her to win the rematch by way of knockout.
Sandy has the kind of size, punching power, and pedigree to not just avenge the loss to Erika Farias, but to inexorably see herself becoming a world champion at some point, whether it's at super lightweight, welterweight, or super welterweight, as Sandy Ryan is very statuesque for a 140-pound fighter. Sooner or later, she is going to move up. It's only a matter of time, though more immediately. I think she's got what it takes to win the rematch with Erika Farias because she actually hurt Erika in the first fight.
No, Argentinian fighters like Erika Farias, they're notoriously tough fighters.
Strong competitors, and I think Sandy Ryan was likely surprised at how well Erika Farias took her power. Erika Farias, who's an aging fighter, 38 years old, she was able to withstand the hard punches, the hard shots from Sandy Ryan.
That and Erika Farias was busier.
A good game plan from Farias to take the fight to Sandy Ryan. As mid-range to outside, the naturally smaller fighter, Erika Farias, she would have been a sitting duck for power shots, but mid-range to inside, she could fluster the more statuesque fighter.
The more statuesque fighter with the longer arms.
She was busier throughout, though this time, I think Sandy Ryan and Clifton Mitchell, who trained Sandy, I think they've learned their lesson, and I think they understand that Sandy definitely has enough power to hurt Erika, but she's got to follow up. She's got to throw punches in bunches. You can't look for a single shot to do a seasoned fighter, a former champion like an Erika Farias. She's too experienced and too durable for that. You've got to really beat her into submission, and that's what I'm expecting to see in August.
Oh yeah, I think Sandy's gonna knock Erika Farias out.
It would be the first time in 32 professional contests, 32 professional bouts that Erika Farias has been stopped, but there's a first time for everything, and I think it's gonna go down in August. In men's heavyweight news, ahead of his upcoming rematch with Joshua-Usyk, Anthony Joshua's trainer, Robert Garcia, says, "I'm pushing Joshua to be aggressive, to be a mean guy in the ring."
Not encouraging to some, as that seems like one of those things that's supposed to come from within.
You know what? I think he wasn't thinking and prepared to win the fight. From what he told me, he was just thinking of going all 12 rounds. He never thought, I've got to win the fight. I just need to go 12 rounds. So that makes a big difference, Garcia told Seconds Out. Now he's thinking of winning and thinking of hurting somebody. That's the most important thing. He's got to be confident with his team. Garcia replaced career-long trainer Rob McCracken as the head coach of Anthony Joshua's corner. He's training him to take the fight to Usyk.
And you know, you can sit there and say that these are the things that costed Anthony Joshua the fight.
That in the first fight, he was more focused on going the distance, going the full course, than actually securing the W, that he wasn't as focused as he should have been on hurting the other guy. You can say that this is what Anthony Joshua was thinking, and this is what costed him the fight, but the fact still remains that most people are thinking that's supposed to come naturally. It's supposed to come naturally that your intent is to hurt the other guy. It's supposed to come naturally.
Nobody should have to tell you that. That's supposed to come from you. That's supposed to come from within.
So it's not encouraging. Robert Garcia added, week by week, we see a lot of improvement in Anthony Joshua. He's going to get better and better. So by the time the fight comes, he's going to be 100% ready. He's going to be with a team that wants him to win, wants him to perform, and wants him to be a little bit tougher. I think that's what I bring in. Me and Angel Fernandez are pushing him to be aggressive, to be a mean guy in the ring, to hurt anyone in front of him. He's been doing that lately, and I'm very happy and pleased with how things are going, And it all sounds good, all sounds sunny, sounds encouraging, but what are you expecting Robert Garcia to say? That
we're not sure if he's going to be able to do this. We're not sure if he's going to be as mean-spirited as he needs to be.
In everything you hear in the build-up of a fight in terms of preparation is going to be encouraging. Nobody's going to show their cards. So in all actuality, we have no insights as to whether or not Robert Garcia will make a difference being in Anthony Joshua's corner as opposed to Rob McCracken. It very much seems like they have the right idea. I said that myself immediately after the first fight, that Anthony Joshua was fighting a thinking man's fight, fencing with the jabs.
Boxing the little man as opposed to trampling him or attempting to.
Setting up shots that would have allowed Anthony Joshua safe entry by way of the lead hand, by way of the jab, as opposed to simply shooting it, stepping into it, and out-muscling the little guy because you can't out-hustle him. He's naturally faster. He's going to have a better gas tank because he's not carrying as much muscle as you are, and you can't hope to outthink him. You can't hope to outbox him. What you can do is outsize him. Throw so much at him, so fast, he's overwhelmed, something gets through, and you take him out. That's Anthony Joshua's best bet.
Yeah. You are running the risk of being countered. You are running the risk of being knocked out. And at minimum, you might burn out doing that much that early in a fight.
But like it or lump it, these are your options. So the most that you can hope to do is implement a plan like this as best as you can, because what you did the first time, it didn't work.
You've got to come in hot and hit this guy with so much, so fast, he ain't got time to think.
If you ask around, most people are picking JoshuaUsyk to beat Anthony Joshua for a second time, this time by way of knockout.
I'll say that it's better for the health of the division and the health of the sport if Anthony Joshua wins, because quite honestly, he brings more money into it.
That's the truth. You can like it or love it. Money is the lifeblood of the sport, the revenue that a fighter can generate and the attention that he can garner, the amount of eyes he can bring to the sport of boxing. And Anthony Joshua, in a short amount of time, has done that.
But this fight ain't going to be determined by who's got more followers on Instagram or who's generated more money so far.
Ultimately, the outcome of this fight will be decided by the two combatants, the two men in the ring. And a lot of people favor Usyk to win this thing.
One thing I've liked about Anthony Joshua upon his ascent to world championship status,
and a big part of why he garnered so much attention, so many supporters, so many fans so fast, is because
there wasn't any fluff.
It didn't take this guy 20 fights or 30 fights or 7 years or close to a decade to procure an alphabet title. It took him about, 15 or 16 fights, and when he procured that world title, he procured it in dominant fashion against an unbeaten champion, Charles Martin. Perhaps not the greatest titleist, the greatest belt holder, but Anthony Joshua didn't need it.
He didn't need 6 or 7 years worth of stat padding to be ready for a guy like that.
Did that in his third year as a professional boxer. Only his third year.
I don't think he gets enough credit for that, and I don't think he gets enough credit for not bamboozling the fight fans.
What was he, a world champion in his third year as a boxer, a unified champion in his fourth?
And there were no conditions. Anthony Joshua was willing to take on all comers.
Believe it or not, the division and the sport of boxing has benefited greatly from Anthony Joshua's meteoric rise to heavyweight stardom. His contemporaries like Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury were but afterthoughts.
Wilder winning that WBC title flew under the radar, and when Tyson Fury beat Vladimir Klitschko in what was a stinker of a fight,
it didn't galvanize the fight fans due to the aesthetic of the match, and Tyson Fury, he didn't capitalize off that momentum because after he beat Vladimir, he retired for 2 years.
A lot of people got their revisionist version of history, but make no mistake, if the heavyweight division was set ablaze, it wasn't by them, it was actually by Anthony Joshua.
It wasn't perfect. He suffered his second career defeat, granted, but he has been beneficial to this division and to the sport. Deontay Wilder didn't start garnering the attention that he garnered until Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder became a conversation. Tyson Fury was the beneficiary of that, as Deontay Wilder sought Tyson Fury as an alternative to a Joshua fight.
The catalyst for all the money we've seen poured into this division the last couple of years really is Anthony Joshua.
And if he falters for a second time at the hands of JoshuaUsyk, well, those are big shoes to fill.
Usyk's one of the most excellent boxers in the sport today, but he's not the same draw that Anthony Joshua is, and neither is Tyson Fury.
He can't do for the division, can't do for the sport what Anthony Joshua did because of all his intermittent stints of retirement.
Constant contradictions and the general wishy-washiness associated with Tyson Fury.
The chronic flip-flopper who is not long for the sport anyway.
It is what it is.
And in the same way you're hearing encouraging news from Anthony Joshua's camp, you're hearing the exact same thing from Usyk's camp. Usyk, who reportedly is busting up sparring partners, boxers, are being sent home. Kazakh heavyweight Nursultan Amanzalov, who helped Usyk prepare for the first encounter with Joshua, is helping the Ukrainian boxer prepare for the rematch. He, Amanzalov, says there are days when Usyk goes to war with him. It's not easy to hurt Nursultan, but he's been on the receiving end a few times, but a lot of these heavyweights have been sent back home. If they can't stay in camp, they can't keep up, Amanzalov's manager, Amir Ali, told Sky Sports. He says Usyk is in tremendous shape for this camp. He said as soon as Usyk came back from Jeddah from the press conference, the day he arrived back, he phoned up Nursultan, who was sitting in his hotel room, and said to him, "I want you sparring today." Literally got off the plane and started
sparring straight away.
And Nursultan said he was in a foul mood. He was in a really angry mood, wanted to go to war. Anthony Joshua is in trouble. Usyk was sending heavyweights, 6'6" and whatnot, back home. Nursultan was one of the only heavyweights that he kept on throughout the whole camp because he would actually challenge him and give him a very tough time. And from what I understand, there were points where Nursultan was being told by Usyk, "No, I need you to come on harder.
Don't hold back on me."
If this doesn't highlight the differences between the Andy Ruiz rematch and what is to be the Usyk rematch, I don't know what else does. Andy Ruiz dropped the ball ahead of that second fight with Anthony Joshua. According to Andy, he didn't train, whereas
Usyk's busting up sparring partners and sending them home.
And this accents what I've been telling you guys all along, that Anthony Joshua has proven to be a fighter that can make adjustments ahead of a second fight in a rematch situation. That's what we saw in the Andy Ruiz rematch. But make no mistake, this is not Andy Ruiz he's fighting. And what needs to change isn't as straightforward as staying behind your jab, sticking and moving, and keeping the other guy on the outside. He's fighting a more consummate professional now, a more determined fighter than Andy Ruiz was.
A guy who's already being regarded as one of the top 3 cruiserweights in the history of the division, in the history of cruiserweights.
Right up there with Evander Holyfield, now turned heavyweight champion, unified. He means to stay a unified heavyweight champion. That's what this indicates to me. And
a lot of people wondered, what effect would the crisis in Ukraine have on Alexander Usyk's psyche ahead of this fight?
Could it affect his perception of things and what's really important in life, what's really important in the greater scheme of things? That there are things more important than alphabet titles and boxing matches. Some people speculated that it could affect him positively or negatively based on this.
Based on this, he hasn't taken his eyes off the ball.
Based on this, if the crisis in Ukraine has had any effect on Alexander Usyk, it seems to have made him more driven, more determined, perhaps more dangerous.
They said the guy got off the plane from Jeddah and he was in a foul mood. They said he was angry.
Can we interpret that as Alexander Usyk venting his frustrations at the crisis in his homeland, his home country, or was it something more simple, like somebody burning the beans?
A spat with the missus?
Stepped on a Lego, perhaps. In any event, the crisis in Ukraine doesn't seem to have affected Alexander Usyk adversely, not based on this.
Stuff like this is why most people are picking him to win the rematch.